Africa. What's in a name? Africa is the world's second largest continent, both by size and number, after Asia. Its landmass holds 54 countries and 9 territories. Over 1.11 billion people call Africa home and call themselves African. Africa and being African has become a core part of the identity of millions of the continent's inhabitants. But where does this word, to which so many have such an emotional connection, come from? The exact origins of the word Africa are contentious, but there is much about its history that is known. We know that the word Africa was first used by the Romans to describe that part of the Carthaginian Empire which lies in present-day Tunisia. When the Romans conquered Carthage, capital Carthage, in the 2nd century BCE, giving them jurisdiction over most of North Africa, they divided North America into multiple provinces. Amongst these there were Africa Proconsulis, Northern Tunisia, and Africa Nova, much of present-day Algeria, also called Numidia. All historians agree that it was the Romans' use of the term Africa for parts of Tunisia and northern Algeria, which ultimately, almost 2,000 years later, gave the continent its name. There is, however, no consensus among scholars as to why the Romans decided to call these provinces Africa. Over the years, a small number of theories have gained traction. One of the most popular suggestions for the origin of the term Africa is that it is derived from the Roman name for a tribe living in the northern reaches of Tunisia, believed to possibly be the Berber people. The Romans variously named these people Afri, capital A-F-R-I, Afer, capital A-F-E-R, and Ifir, capital I-F-I-R. Some believe that Africa is a contraction of Africa terra, meaning that's Africa, T-E-R-R-A, meaning the land of the Afri, capital A-F-R-I. There is, however, no evidence in the primary sources that the term Africa terra, T-E-R-R-A, was used to describe the region. Nor is there direct evidence that it is from the name Afri, capital A-F-R-I, that the Romans derived the term Africa. In the early 16th century, the famous medieval traveler and scholar Leo Africanus al-Hassan Abi Muhammad al-Wazan, who had traveled across most of North Africa, giving detailed accounts of all that he saw there, suggested that the name Africa was derived from the Greek word Afri, A-P-H-R-I-K-E, meaning without cold or without horror. In a similar line of thought, other historians have suggested that the Romans may have derived the name from the Latin word for sunny or hot, namely Aprica, A-P-R-I-C-A. Where exactly the Romans got the name Africa from is, however, still in dispute. For most of its history, the Roman word Africa, capital Africa, was not used to describe the continent as a whole, but rather only a very small section of North Africa, what today constitutes the northern parts of Tunisia. Prior to the late 16th century, there were a variety of names used to describe the various constituent parts of the north half of Africa, with Libya, capital Libya, Ethiopia, capital Aethiopia, Sudan, capital Sudan, and Guinea, capital Guinea, being by far the most common names used. For the ancient Greeks, almost everything south of the Mediterranean Sea and west of the Nile was referred to as Libya. This was also the name given by the ancient Greeks to the Berber people who occupied most of the land. The ancient Greeks believed their world was divided into three greater regions: Europa, capital Europa, Asia, capital Asia, and Libya, capital Libya, all centered around the Aegean Sea. They also believed that the dividing line between Libya and Asia was the Nile River, placing half of Egypt in Asia and the other half in Libya. For many centuries, even into the late medieval period, cartographers followed the Greek example, placing the Nile as the dividing line between the land masses. Early Arabic cartographers tended to follow the Greeks in the usage of their term Libya for vast swaths of North Africa beyond Egypt. Later, Arabic cartographers began to call the area south of the Sahara, extending from the Senegal River to the Red Sea, Bilad al-Sudan, the land of the blacks, which is where the contemporary nation of Sudan gets its name from. Some European cartographers who tended privileged Latinate derivations above others preferred the Roman terms for the region, using the word Africa to designate the northern landmass rather than the Greek term Libya, although Libya was still used by many. During the Middle Ages, the Christian cartographers adopted the Greek division of the world into three greater regions surrounding the Aegean Sea. The medieval cartographers, however, moved this understanding away from the geographical conception of the world into a more metaphorical understanding. They aligned each region to one of Abraham's descendants, giving Asia to Shem, Europe to Japheth, and Africa to Ham. This tripartite conception of the world was represented in extremely abstract and symbolic rather than geographical form, as is shown in the image above. In the 15th century, for the Portuguese had rounded the Cape and made contact with the Christian empire of Abyssinia. The Greek term Ethiopia, meaning land of the dark skin or burnt, which was used by Greek cartographers to designate the land below the Egypt and the Sahara, was revived again to loosely describe all of the tropical area of the continent between the Sahara. At roughly the same time, the Portuguese began to refer to all of West Africa below the Sahara was Guinea, the land inhabited by the Guinean people. Guineans was a generic term used for black people, in contrast to the more brown people of much in North Africa. The term Guinea, or the English Guinea, became even more popular to describe the region of West Africa accessible from the Gulf of Guinea. Until the mid-17th century, the term Guinea and Ethiopia or Ethiopia were popularly used to describe the land south of the Sahara. Libya was commonly used for the northwest of Africa above the Sahara. Africa was used sometimes instead of Libya to denote the northwest of Africa, and sometimes along Libya to denote the central and northern region of Africa, which today is predominantly occupied by Tunisia. Before the late 16th century, Africa was used only to denote one part of the larger landmass that makes up the that makes up the area talked about. It was only in the 16th and 17th century, with the European age of exploration, that the concept of continents as contiguous landmasses bordered and separated by oceans began to take shape. As European exploration opened up the idea of continents, so cartographers began to give single geographical names to entire continents. By the end of the 17th century, the name Africa had won out over the others, beating names such as Guinea, Libya, or Ethiopia to become the name for the entire continent as we know it today. While Africa won out over all the other, often more popular names is unclear, although some historians have argued that it is due to the 17th and 18th century preference for Latinate terms above all others. The word Africa had been marked on the continent for millennium, but its dominance over the continent and its place as the name for all the people who live on it is only a very recent phenomenon.